Welcome to the latest edition of the LL Basketball Roundtable from the friendly confines in North Queen Street, Lancaster. And my name is Mike Gross. I'm the host for these proceedings. To my left is John Walk, who covers boys basketball for our publications. To my right is Jeff Reinhardt. Same thing for the girls. And we're a little bit into it. A lot of league games being played now. We're a few weeks into the season. I don't want to say races are taking shape yet because they're not. But we've seen some things. Rhines, tell us what you've seen.
I've seen a lot of hoops. Shocker. Been around. I think I've been to Lebanon County like 9 times already, and going there again here on Wednesday as we record. 4 undefeated girls teams. That's it. Lebanon 6-0. They've been fantastic. A couple of late game pull it out at the end victories. Beat Manheim Township in overtime last week. Great game. Effort is 4-0. Mounts. Good start for them. Lancaster Catholic 5-0. Columbia, they've only played 3 games, which is kind of weird. They had a game against Country Day scheduled for this week. Country Day ran out of players. There's a lot of illness going around, if you haven't heard, a lot of illness. Wow. And they only have 7 or 8 kids to begin with, and I guess a couple of them got sick. So Columbia Country Day got pushed back. I don't have a make-up date on that yet, but the Tide's 3-0, and they have an interesting game here on Wednesday against Trinity Shamrocks.
Oh, wow.
That's a fun non-league game, Columbia Trinity. The big game here, and it's Wednesday night. I'll set it up here for you. I'll tee it up. McCaskey, which has won 7 in a row.
Yeah.
They won 3 games last year, maybe 2 games the year before that, and they had an 0 not too long ago, an 0-22 season.
Like Salenko and Cook and E-Town were in football. That's kind of what this is.
And here they are.
Yeah,
Boom.
Yeah.
McCaskey found it. Tornado lost their opener by 2, and now they've won 7 in a row. So they're 3 points from being 8-0. They've been great. They have found it. So McCaskey on Wednesday night. Tornado at Lebanon, which is a great game for first place in Section 1. It is early, like you said. But in Section 1, when all these teams are going to beat each other, the Crests and the Hemfields and the Townships and the Lebanons and the McCaskey here jumping in this race, that's a huge game on Wednesday night. So I'll be up at that. I may
stop by that one myself.
Yeah, I'll be over there. That's going to be great. Speaking of McCaskey, Tyler and I were out at McCaskey this week. We have a separate video piece this week on the Tornado. Talked to a couple kids, dropped by practice, chatted about their great start and what's going right over there at McCaskey. They've been fabulous. The other game I wanted to mention for this week, Ephrata has a backyard rivalry game Thursday night against Cocalico, non-league, but a tricky test for Ephrata because it's such a big backyard rivalry game, and I think that's a double dip with the boys after that.
I just want to, I know we've talked a lot about Korea from Lebanon, but I just, now they have a freshman, Brandt?
Olive Brandt.
Yeah, okay. For that school, with their history and their demographics and everything, to have 2 freshmen on consecutive years.
How about that? And Liliana Harrison as well, who's a sophomore.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, dude, for that to happen, that's not hitting the lottery. That's like hitting the Powerball after nobody's won it for 3 months.
Yeah, really.
I mean, that is a miracle. What's happening?
And Brandt is like a mini Correa. She has her mannerisms. Not quite the same player. Correa is very polished for a 10th grader, but Brandt has the same kind of dipsy-doos and that kind of stuff.
The most impressive thing about Correa, and I'll stop here in a minute, but and Jason Guarente in his game story last week really reflected this. For a kid who has the ball all the time and is so young, she just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. No. That's amazing. That's the most amazing part.
Nope, doesn't turn it over. Very heady. And in
the game that Jason covered, 0 turnovers.
Yeah, and I saw her in the night when she scored 0 points, but was still a factor because she set people up, she made passes, she ran the break, got steals. Lebanon's been, if not the story, one of the stories. McCaskey winning 7 straight has been great.
That's the story too, and Lancaster Catholic is doing what they always do, so we don't say that's a story.
I have a feeling we haven't talked Catholic much here in the first 2-3 weeks, but we're going to be talking a lot of Crusaders moving forward. They're dynamite.
John, what do you got, my man?
What have we got?
You're out there. You're in the gyms. What are you seeing?
Well, we kind of talked about this before we started recording in terms of what we see now is probably not what we're going to see in February. There's some teams that are off to
I think that's
kind of
particularly
500.
true this year. Yeah.
Right. There's teams that are like at 500 or below who are probably going to turn around. Manheim Township being one of them. Blue Streaks are 3-5 overall. Township and McCaskey girls lead the league both sides in terms of number of games played at 8. Township
There you go.
boys,
Good fact.
3-5 overall. Of those 5 losses, 3 are by single-digit margins. They were in 2 of those losses to Governor Mifflin and to Wilson. They were without one of their leading scorers in Sebastian Henson, who has since returned and put up point totals of 22 and 24.
Wow.
So he's pretty good. He's back. Township beat Warwick in overtime. I think they were combined for like 39 points in 1 overtime. Apparently Warwick just fouled the whole time. Is what Coach John's told me anyway. And that came after last week when Warwick took Wilson to OT and beat him. I think 53-50 was the margin around there. Wilson, at least the last I had checked coming into this week, were 4-1 overall. So Warwick at the time, coming into Monday, was the only team to have beaten Wilson, who we know is a Berks County stronghold. Warwick, the youngest team in the league without a senior on the roster.
Really?
And they are, as I look at this now, because they're in Section 2.
They've scheduled
They're 2-3 to this point, but more than likely they're going to be plus 500 league district playoff team when all is said and
That'll
done.
all change.
Yeah, I think it almost. I mean, we were saying that before. It almost reminds me a little bit of the NBA, where the regular season is just like you have to take everything with a grain of salt, and particularly I think with a team like Lancaster Mennonite, for example, that's Double A. I mean, it's almost like this is just treading water until March for them.
Lancaster Mennonite, they are 4-3 overall, 1-0 in league. They are 3-1 in their last 4 games without their leading scorer Camden Hurst, who is at 1,224 career points. He suffered a fractured hand on his shooting hand, I believe, was the injury. He's going to be out until mid-January. But if the Blazers can kind of keep still chugging along here and at least stay at 500 or better, and then Hurst returns, and then they get into the thick of their league schedule against a Columbia, against a Country Day, and they're going to be perfectly fine setting up districts, and who knows, maybe by the end of January, early February, they're contending for a Section 4 crown. They still have a lot of horses there to be able to kind of get it done without Camden. By the way, the guy who replaced him in the lineup, Chase Hurst, the third Hurst in the line of Mennonite players.
Nice.
The name of the first one escapes me, but he led them to Hershey several times back in the day. One last team kind of on that theme here is Donegal. They're 4-3 overall.
They've really been pretty good, though.
All 3 losses are by single-digit margins. All 3 losses by an average margin of just 3 points. I think it was 2 points, 2 points, and 5 points.
Nail biters.
The last loss was to Lampeter Strasburg. I'll be honest, I thought the Pioneers were going to go to Mount Joy the other night and take it to the Indians, and LS only ended up winning by like 5 points.
That was a very good. And then following it along on Twitter, that game was close the whole way.
Right.
That sounds like it was a really good game. Yeah.
Wow.
Donegal's pretty good.
Interesting.
Apparently.
Since we hit on Cam Hurst in regards to top players, all-state picks, injuries, etc., Octorara, senior guard Elijah Hamilton returned from injury. He had, I think, off-season surgery. I'm not exactly what for. He has since returned the last 2 games to score 16 and 23 points. He's now at 702 career points, so 1K is certainly feasible for them. And looking at the Braves' overall record here, they are 4-2 overall. So more than likely, LS, Octorara, Donegal, all there in Section 3, and who knows, Catholic is 2-3, but they're playing everybody tough. Cocalico is 3-3, but they're playing everybody tough.
Wow.
Yeah, so there you have it. Again, I think a lot of these teams are it's not biding their time. That's not right. But the regular season almost has to be taken with a grain of salt, in light of what class they're in, and just they're not what they're going to be.
Yeah, I never really start looking at it seriously until like after the holiday games, like when they get back a week, that January 3rd week, when everybody gets back and plays a league game or 2. That's when I start really looking at it.
Like in the case of the Mennonite boys, I could see them with 8, 9, 10 losses and being in the state
Still being
quarters or
okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little unusual.
Huh.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mennonite, I got a Mennonite girls notable. Jayla Rivera, have a night. She scored 36 against Linden Hall last week.
36 in 36 minutes.
That's pretty good. I think she had 4 threes. No huge milestones here on the girls' side. Bree Draghi got 1,000 last week. Twin sister Brooke is coming up on 800. She's still in the 7s, but she should hit 800 here. And again, they play Trinity Wednesday night, which is a cool game. So Brooke should be around the 800 range. A lot of disparity in girls this year. I won't name any names. We had a score that was 61-2 the other night. We had a
Big gap between the top of the league and the bottom.
We had a game that was 41-0 at halftime. We had a game that was 40-0 in the first quarter.
Wow.
So everybody's still kind of feeling it out, but there's a lot of the upper teams are
there's nothing to feel out there. 40-0.
Yeah, there's been some really awkward looking scores here early on.
But again, illnesses have been going around.
I'm writing sick on a lot of stat sheets. Sick, she was sick, she was sick, she was sick. There's a lot of kids out. One last thing, please get well soon, Kirsten Shipton. Thinking about you, kid.
Anything else for the good of the order, John?
For what it's worth, in terms of illnesses, I know it's hit quite a few teams, just me being out there, and I won't name the coach here, but just talking to somebody the other day as far as like, hey, how's your team holding up? Well, we're not missing anybody, but every time we stop the ball in practice for me to teach everything, it's basically just a cacophony of coughs throughout the gym at that point. So
very alliterative.
they're all battling through
of
some
coughs.
things. A couple notes I wanted to point out here. Garden Spot and Lancaster Catholic, I think they're combined like 11 games. They have not played each other. All 11 games decided by single-digit margins. They've gone down to the wire with every team that they played.
Wow.
And I don't know their overall records without looking at it here. But also want to give a shout-out to Columbia being 6-1. Again, they came into the year missing their top 3 players to graduation, and they're still chugging along. The basketball
they've been really
factory
good.
there. They're going to be just fine in 3A. Mennonite should be fine in 2A. And by the way, another game, like we mentioned, LS going to Donegal. I thought Columbia would go to Country Day on Tuesday night and just pound them. And Columbia and Country Day
I
played
noticed
Columbia
that too.
tough. Country Day has played Columbia tough, and they played Linville Hill Christian tough. Linville
good.
Hill is the school in Paradise that won the district title last year, made it to the second round of states, expected to be a state finalist this year, or at least close to it. So Country Day is 4-3 overall, and they've been playing everybody tough. And they, again, lost a 1,000-point scorer, Grant Landis, to graduation.
There you go.
Pretty well.
There's been some good storylines here. We're 3 weeks in, but it's happening.
It's happening,
It's
baby.
happening.
All right, gang. Happy holidays to everybody, especially you, Tyler. I think you deserve that. This has been the LL Basketball Roundtable, brought to you by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. We will not be here next week. We will be here in 2023 with more of this fun stuff. For John Walk, for Jeff Reinhardt, I'm Mike Gross. See ya.